Hey you! Yeah, you scrolling through YouTube looking for something to spark your day. Let me ask you a question. When was the last time you stepped out of your cozy little bubble? I'm not talking about leaving your house. I mean really pushing yourself, facing something tough, something that scared you silly. Most of us don't. We cling to comfort like it's a life raft, avoiding anything that feels risky or hard. But here's the kicker. That comfort? It's silently holding you back. Welcome to the Daily Stoic Mindset, where we're digging into an ancient philosophy that's all about living better, stronger, and truer Stoicism. Today, we're tackling why courage beats comfort every single time. Think about it. The best stories, the ones that stick with you, aren't about people who played it safe. They're about the ones who stared fear in the face and said, "Not today." That's Stoicism in action. It's not about being fearless, it's about acting despite the fear. And trust me, by the end of this you'll see why choosing courage over comfort isn't just noble, it's practical. It's how you grow, how you live a life worth living. So, grab a coffee, settle in, and let's unpack this together. You might just find yourself rethinking that cozy blanket you've been hiding under. Ready? Let's go. All right, let's start with the obvious. Comfort feels good. Who doesn't love a lazy Sunday, binge-watching shows, or scrolling X with a snack in hand? It's easy. It's safe. It's like wrapping yourself in a warm hug that never ends. But here's the problem. Comfort doesn't stay a hug. Over time, it turns into a cage. The Stoics, those wise old Romans and Greeks like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca, saw this coming a mile away. They didn't have Netflix or smartphones, but they knew. Humans love to avoid pain and chase pleasure. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor who could have had every luxury imaginable, wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. He wasn't lounging on a throne, whining about his problems, He was out there leading armies, facing chaos, and still finding peace. Why? Because he chose courage over comfort. Think about your own life for a second. Maybe you've got a job you hate, but it pays the bills, so you stick with it. Or there's that tough conversation you've been dodging, because it's easier to keep the peace. That's the comfort trap snapping shut. It's not just about feeling good in the moment, it's about what you're giving up long term. Every time you pick the easy road, you're saying no to growth, to challenge, to the chance to become something more. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine you're at the gym. You've got two options. Stick to the treadmill on a nice flat setting safe, predictable, comfortable, or crank up the incline. Push your legs until they burn and see what you're really made of. The treadmill's tempting, right? No one's judging you there. But that incline? That's where the magic happens. That's where you build muscle, stamina, confidence. Life's the same way. Comfort keeps you on the flat setting. Courage turns up the incline. Seneca, another Stoic heavyweight, put it bluntly. A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials. He's saying you don't get better by coasting. You get better by grinding. And, yeah, grinding sucks. Sometimes. It's sweaty, it's messy, it's scary. But on the other side, that's where you find the version of yourself you didn't even know existed. Now, don't get me wrong, comfort isn't evil. It's not like the Stoics were out here torturing themselves for fun. They enjoyed a good meal or a sunny day like anyone else. But they knew the difference between resting and rotting. Resting recharges you. Rotting keeps you stuck. And too many of us are rotting in our comfort zones, telling ourselves, "I'll start tomorrow," or "This is fine for now." Spoiler, tomorrow never comes, and fine is a slow death for your potential. Take a real-world example. You've probably heard of people who quit cushy jobs to chase a dream, start a business, travel the world, whatever. X is full of these stories. One guy I read about recently ditched a 6-figure desk job to build a tiny house and live off-grid. Nuts, right? But he said it was the first time he felt alive. That's courage kicking comfort to the curb. He didn't wait for permission or the perfect moment, he acted. And the Stoics would have nodded in approval. So, here's where we're at. Comfort's a trap. It promises safety but delivers stagnation. Courage, on the other hand, doesn't promise anything. It demands you show up, and in return, it gives you a shot at something real. Next, we'll dig into why courage isn't just some heroic buzzword, but a practical tool you can use every day. Stick with me, we're just getting started. So, we've established that comfort's a trap. It's the flat treadmill setting that keeps you safe, but stuck. Now, let's flip the script. Why does courage beat it? And no, I'm not talking about slaying dragons or jumping out of planes, though. That'd be pretty cool. I'm talking about the quiet, gritty courage you can tap into every single day. The Stoics didn't see courage as some rare, superhero trait. To them, it was a muscle you build, a choice you make, and here's the big one, a practical way to live a better life. Let's break this down. Picture this. You wake up, and your inbox is a dumpster fire, emails from your boss, a client freaking out, whatever. Your gut says, ugh, I'll deal with it later. That's comfort whispering in your ear. Courage, though. Courage says, nope, open it now, face it, handle it. It's not glamorous, but it's real. And the Stoics were all about real. Epictetus, one of the sharpest Stoic minds, said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. That's courage in a nutshell, not controlling the chaos, but controlling yourself in the chaos. Why is this practical? Because life doesn't wait for you to feel ready. Bills don't pause, deadlines don't vanish, and tough talks don't resolve themselves. Comfort tells you to hide. Courage gets you moving. And here's the payoff. Every time you choose courage, you're not just surviving, you're training yourself to handle bigger stuff down the road. It's like lifting weights. Start with the 10-pound dumbbell, and soon you're swinging the 50-pounder, like it's nothing. Let's bring in Marcus Aurelius again. He's the GOAT for a reason. He wrote, if it's endurable, then endure it. Don't complain. Imagine him scribbling that while camped out with his army, mud up to his knees, far from the palaces of Rome. He wasn't whining about the cold. He was facing it. That's practical. Courage. Doing what's in front of you, even when it sucks. And guess what? You've got that same power. Maybe your battlefield's not a Roman frontier, but a soul-crushing 9-to-5 or a family drama you'd rather avoid. Same principle applies, face it, endure it, grow from it. Now, let's get personal for a sec. Think about something you've been dodging. Maybe it's asking for a raise, starting that side hustle, or even just hitting the gym when you'd rather nap. What's stopping you? Fear, right? Fear of failing, looking dumb, or getting rejected. Comfort loves fear. It's like fuel for the do-nothing engine. But the Stoics had a trick for that. They called it premeditatio malorum fancy. Latin for imagine the worst. Sounds gloomy, but it's genius. Picture the rays getting shot down, the side hustle flopping or tripping over the treadmill. Then ask, so what? You're still breathing. The world didn't end. Suddenly, that fear's not so big, and courage steps in. I saw this play out on X the other day. Some guy posted about how he finally told his toxic friend, we're done. He'd been scared to do it, didn't want the drama, but he imagined the worst. Yelling, guilt trips, whatever. Then he realized he'd survive it. So he pulled the trigger, and you know what? He said it felt like dropping a 50-pound backpack he didn't know he was carrying. That's Stoic courage, practical, messy, liberating. Here's where it gets even cooler. Courage compounds. One small win like tackling that inbox spills over. Next thing you know, you're speaking up in meetings or signing up for that 5K you swore you'd never do. Seneca nailed it. We suffer more in imagination than in reality. Most of the stuff we dread? It's not as bad as we think. Courage proves that. One choice at a time. But let's be real, it's not always easy. Sometimes courage feels like dragging yourself through mud. You'll stumble. You'll doubt yourself. The Stoics knew that too. They weren't robots. They were human, just like us. The difference? They didn't let the stumbles stop them. They saw every tough moment as a chance to practice. Missed a deadline? Okay, how do you own it and fix it? Got rejected? Cool, what's the next step? That's courage. As a tool, not a feeling, but a habit. So, here's your takeaway from this chunk. Courage isn't about being fearless or perfect. It's about showing up when you'd rather hide. It's practical because it works. Every time you choose it, you're chipping away at fear and building something stronger. Next up, we'll dive into how comfort kills potential while courage unlocks it. We're rolling, now stay with me. All right, we've covered the comfort trap and how courage is your practical, everyday superpower. Now, let's get to the heart of it. Comfort doesn't just keep you stuck, it kills your potential. Meanwhile, courage? That's the key that unlocks who you could be. The Stoics figured this out centuries ago, and it's still dead on today. So, grab a seat. We're about to see why playing it safe is the real risk, and why stepping up is the only way to win. Let's start with comfort. It's sneaky. It doesn't feel like a killer, it feels like a friend. You're chilling on the couch, skipping that workout, telling yourself, I'll get to it next week. Or, you're coasting at a job you've outgrown, thinking, it's not that bad. Comfort's whispering, why rock the boat? This is fine. But here's the brutal truth. Every time you listen to that whisper, you're burying a piece of what you could become. Potential isn't some fluffy word. It's the gap between who you are now and who you could be if you stopped settling. And comfort. It's the shovel digging that grave. The Stoics saw this clear as day. Seneca wrote, you are living as if destined to live forever. Your own frailty never occurs to you. Ouch, right? He's saying we act like time's unlimited, like we've got endless tomorrows to get our act together. But we don't. Every day you pick comfort over courage, you're not just delaying, you're losing. That workout you skipped? That strength you didn't build? That job you didn't leave? That's a dream you didn't chase. Comfort feels like a pause button, but it's really a delete key. Think about it like this. Imagine you're a seed. Stay comfy in the dirt, nice, dark, cozy, and you're just a seed forever. But crack open, push through the soil, fight for sunlight, you turn into a tree. That's potential unleashed, and it doesn't happen without courage. The Stoics loved nature, metaphors, and this one fits. Marcus Aurelius said, what need is there to weep over parts of life? The whole of it calls for tears. He's not being a downer. He's pointing out that life's tough no matter what, so why waste it hiding? Comfort keeps you a seed. Courage makes you grow. Now, let's flip to the good stuff. How courage unlocks potential. Picture someone you admire, maybe a friend who started a business, or a YouTuber who went from 0 to millions. What got them there? Not luck, not talent alone, it was courage. They took the leap when it would have been easier to stay put. I saw a post on X recently about a woman who quit her corporate gig to teach yoga full-time. She was terrified bills don't pay themselves, but she did it anyway. 2 years later, she's got a thriving studio and a smile that says, I'm alive. That's courage doing its thing. The Stoics would have cheered her on. Epictetus taught that we're not here to be comfortable, we're here to do. He said, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. It's simple, but brutal. Want to be fit? Lace up your sneakers. Want to be bold? Speak your mind. Courage isn't waiting for the perfect moment, it's acting. Now, even when your palms are sweaty and your brain's screaming, abort. And every time you act, you unlock a little more of what's inside you. Here's where it gets practical again. You don't need to quit your job tomorrow or climb Everest to prove this. Start small. Say no to that extra hour of scrolling and read a book instead. Tell someone how you really feel, even if your voice shakes. Those tiny acts of courage stack up. They're like compound interest little deposits that grow into something massive. The Stoics called this virtue in action, and they believed it's what makes us human. Comfort numbs that. Courage ignites it. But let's not sugarcoat it. Choosing courage means facing failure. You might bomb that first yoga class or stutter through that tough talk. And that's okay. The Stoics didn't expect perfection, they expected effort. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Translation: the stuff that scares you, the stuff you suck at, that's your roadmap. Comfort dodges the obstacles. Courage runs straight through them. And on the other side, that's where potential lives. So, here's the deal. Comfort kills potential by keeping you small, safe, and stagnant. Courage unlocks it by pushing you to act, fail, and grow. It's not about being a hare, it's about being you, fully, unapologetically. Next, we'll talk about how to actually build this courage habit, Stoic style. We're halfway there, keep hanging with me. All right, we've nailed why comfort's a potential killer and how courage unlocks the best version of you. But here's the million-dollar question. How do you actually make courage a habit? Because let's be honest, knowing it's good doesn't mean you're ready to ditch the couch for the deep end. The Stoics, though, they didn't just talk big, they gave us a playbook. So let's roll up our sleeves and build this courage muscle step by step, their way. Ready? Here we go. First things first. Courage isn't a light switch, it's a skill. You don't wake up one day fearless and badass. It's more like learning to cook. You start with burnt toast, then work your way to a decent omelet. The Stoics knew this. They didn't expect you to be Marcus Aurelius overnight, commanding legions with a steely gaze. They said, start where you are, with what you've got. Epictetus put it perfectly. Make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens. That's your launchpad. Focus on what you can do right now. Step 1. Shrink the stakes. Comfort loves blowing things out of proportion. If I mess this up, I'm done. The Stoics flipped that with their premeditatio malorum trick we touched on earlier. Imagine the worst, then realize it's not that bad. Say you're scared to ask for a promotion. What's the worst case? Your boss says no. Maybe they laugh. Okay, then what? You're still employed, still alive. Suddenly, it's not a monster, it's just a moment. Marcus Aurelius said, "You don't have to turn this into something. It doesn't have to upset you. Shrink the stakes, and courage gets a foothold." Step 2. Start small, but start. The Stoics were big on action over overthinking. Seneca wrote, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that things are difficult." Translation: stop waiting for the perfect vibrato, something tiny. Tell a friend you disagree with them. Hit send on that email. You've been drafting. One ex-user I saw posted about how he started saying no to small stuff like extra work he didn't want, and it snowballed into quitting a job he hated. Small wins build big guts. Pick one thing today, 5 push-ups, a cold shower, whatever, and do it. That's courage flexing. Step 3. Lean into discomfort daily. The Stoics were obsessed with practice. Think of it like their version of a gym membership. They do wild stuff like sleep on the floor or skip meals, not to flex, but to train. You don't need to go that far, unless you're into it, but try this. Pick one uncomfortable thing each day. Call it your Stoic challenge. Maybe it's skipping coffee to test your grit, or speaking up in a meeting when you'd usually stay quiet. Marcus Aurelius wrote, The art of living is more like wrestling than dancing. Life's a grapplegate used to the sweat. Over time, discomfort stops being the enemy and starts being your coach. Step 4. Reflect, don't regret. Here's where the Stoics get deep. Every night they'd review their day, what went well, what didn't, what they'd do better. Not to beat themselves up, but to learn. Say you chickened out on something okay. Why? What stopped you? Next time, how do you push through? This isn't fluffy journaling, it's tactical. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Reflection builds that mastery. You'll see patterns. Maybe you dodge confrontation or procrastinate when stressed. Once you see them, you can break them. Courage grows when you study it. Step 5. Surround yourself with the right vibes. The Stoics didn't say this outright, but it's implied your crew matters. Hang with people who coast, and you'll coast. Roll with people who push, and you'll rise. I saw a thread on X about a guy who joined a running group, hated it at first, but their grit rubbed off. Now he's doing marathons. You don't need a posse of philosophers, just one or two folks who choose courage over comfort. They'll drag you along in a good way. Here's the kicker. This isn't about perfection. You'll bail sometimes. Comfort's too sneaky not to win a round or two. The Stoics didn't care about that. They cared about progress. One bold move today beats a lifetime of what-ifs. And the payoff? You're not just tougher, you're freer. Free from fear's grip, free to chase what matters. Next, we'll wrap this up with why courage is the ultimate Stoic win and how it ties everything together. We're closing in Stay With Me. All right, we've walked a long road together, unpacking the comfort trap, seeing courage as your practical go-to, watching it unlock potential, and building it step by step. Now, let's tie it all up. Why does courage beat comfort every time? For the Stoics, it's not just about grit or glory, it's the ultimate win because it's the path to a life worth living. Stick with me for this last stretch and I promise it'll hit you right where it counts. Here's the core of it. Courage isn't an accessory, it's the engine. The Stoics believed life's not about what you've got or what happens to you, it's about what you do with it. Comfort keeps you passive, coasting through days like a spectator. Courage? That's active. It's you grabbing the wheel. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." That's the Stoic mic drop. Don't just dream of being strong, brave, or real. Be it. Comfort whispers, later. Courage says, now. And now is all we've got. Think about what that means. Every time you dodge the hard stuff, skip the gym, mute that tough convo, stick to the safe job, you're not just delaying. You're shrinking your life. The Stoics saw time as the one thing you can't get back. Seneca said, "Life is long if you know how to use it. Comfort wastes it, courage spends it." That yoga teacher from X we talked about. She didn't wait for a sign. She traded comfort for a shot at something bigger. You've got that same shot every day. Courage makes it count. And here's the beauty. It's not about winning every battle. The Stoics weren't chasing trophies. They were chasing character. Epictetus said, "Circumstances don't make the man. They reveal him." That tough moment you face head on? It's not about crushing it, it's about showing up. Maybe you bomb that presentation but learn you can survive the flop. Maybe you stand up to a bully and stutter through it. That's still a win. Comfort hides who you are, courage reveals it, and every reveal builds a stronger you. Let's zoom out. Why's this the Stoic win? Because it's freedom. Not the quit your job and live on a beach kind, though that's cool, but freedom inside. Fear's the real jailer, and comfort's its sidekick. Courage breaks the bars. When you act, despite the shakes, you're not just tough, you're untouchable. Marcus Aurelius nailed it. Nothing can harm a good man, neither in life nor after it. He meant that if you've got your mind right, if you choose courage, the world can throw what it wants, you'll stand tall. That's the Stoic flex. Not bending reality, but bending yourself to meet it. Now, let's bring it to today. March 25, 2025. Look around. X is buzzing with people stuck in ruts, venting about jobs, relationships, whatever. Comfort's got them locked. But then you see the others, the ones posting about new startups, hard-won races, or just saying no to crap they used to take. That's courage in action. It's messy, it's raw, it's real, and it's what the Stoics lived for. They'd tell you, stop scrolling, start doing. Life's too short to spectate. So, where does that leave you? Right here, with a choice. Comfort's easy, it's the snooze button. The maybe tomorrow, the warm blanket of good enough. Courage is harder, it's the cold shower, the deep breath, the let's go. But here's the secret. It gets easier. Every time you pick courage, it's less a fight and more a habit. You don't become fearless, you become unstoppable. That's why it beats comfort every time. Not because it's loud or flashy, but because it's true. It's you, living, not just existing. One last Stoic nugget to chew on. Seneca said, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body. Every tough choice you make, that's a rep in the gym of life. Comfort keeps you soft. Courage makes you steel. So, what's your next rep? That's on you. Pick something small, big, doesn't matter, and do it. Prove to yourself what the Stoics knew. You're stronger than you think. And that's it for today. Folks, why courage beats comfort. Straight from the Stoic playbook to your screen. If this hit home, smash that subscribe button for the Daily Stoic Mindset. We're here every week, breaking down ancient wisdom for modern wins. Drop a comment. What's one courageous move you're making today? I'll see you in the next one. Until then, stay bold, stay real, and keep pushing. Later.